Hello, and welcome to Module 8, Natural Disasters. Not all crises are intentional, such as rumors and product tampering, which we've already discussed in previous modules. Some are simply unforeseen and oftentimes unavoidable. This is the case with natural disasters. And just like we, as individuals, need to plan and protect ourselves in a natural disaster, businesses are vulnerable too and could possibly be damaged or destroyed. Even though we can't predict or even stop a natural disaster from occurring, we can take steps to plan to help reduce the impact to our company. Natural disasters such as hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, wildfires are caused by an extreme force, Mother Nature. And when nature turns its wrath upon us, most people don't blame companies for the crises. It's nature. However, the crises for businesses may occur when a company is so damaged that it can't return to business, people are out of work, manufacturing production stops, services are no longer available, or if the company is operating after the crisis, but not effectively. Then the public will want to begin to criticize the company's reaction to the crisis. After the disaster occurs, the criticism comes from the company because the criticism comes from the public because the company isn't doing enough to assist with the crisis, is displacing or inconveniencing its key publics, and isn't getting life quickly back to normal. And we like to get back to normal as quickly as possible. During a crisis, companies must deal with irate customers and employees who aren't getting what they want, an adversarial media who are looking for stories, and an unstable financial situation if the company doesn't have enough revenue to cover the effects of this disaster. When a natural disaster strikes, more than 40% of companies never reopen. That's almost half of businesses in a community. And more staggering is that of those 60% that will reopen, only 25% of them will still be open after only 2 years. Natural disasters are devastating on communities and the businesses housed in those communities. According to FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, here is a list of natural disasters. Just in Florida alone, you can see the ones I've highlighted in purple. There are a number of natural disasters that our businesses need to prepare for. The obvious ones are heat, floods, hurricanes, thunderstorms, and wildfires. However, I have also highlighted extreme cold in that when our temperatures drop below freezing in our state, it affects our crops, people without adequate heating sources, and of course our electrical companies and the supply and demand needed to keep people warm and the businesses functioning. So it may not be extreme for most of the United States, but for Florida, freezing temperatures are a crisis. Now, let's take a look at the overall cost of natural disasters just in the United States. Do you really know the impact of natural disasters? Let's look at just a few of them. Number one on the list is Hurricane Katrina, with an estimated cost of $148.8 billion. Hurricane Katrina is far and away the most expensive natural disaster in modern U.S. history. Storm surges reached 20 to 30 feet along the coast of Mississippi and Louisiana. Gulf oil production dropped by 95%. Over 1.7 million people lost power, with 1,833 confirmed deaths. Katrina's impact even continues to this day. In 1988, the U.S. government estimated farmers would produce 7.3 billion bushels of corn. Instead, only 4.9 billion bushels were produced, a staggering 33% below expectations. In Illinois alone, farmers lost 44% of their expected yield. This was caused by the severe drought and associated heat that occurred across central and eastern states. $70.8 billion in damages and an estimated 7,500 fatalities. Number 3 is Hurricane Sandy, which took its toll on whole communities in New York and New Jersey and merged with the nor'easter to drop damaging rain and snow on 6 other states. The storm caused widespread interruptions in water and electricity, leaving millions without powers for days and even weeks. The New York Stock Exchange closed for 2 consecutive days. In total, Sandy's estimated cost is $65.7 billion and caused 159 fatalities. Number 4 is the Northridge earthquake, which hit California in 1995. Even though this earthquake was only a 6.7 on the Richter scale, it caused large-scale damage throughout Los Angeles and the San Fernando Valley. Portions of Highway 10, Interstate 5, and the Golden State Freeway collapsed. The quake cost $67 billion and caused 60 confirmed deaths. Another horrible heat wave hit the Midwest earlier in 1980, costing about $56.4 billion in damages and causing 1,700 fatalities. Cattle farmers were particularly hard hit due to scorched pasture lands. Ranchers were forced to sell off their herds at extremely low prices. And another costly disaster I want to mention was Hurricane Andrew in South Florida in 1992. Andrew was a tight, compact storm with damaging winds reaching up to 177 miles per hour. Damages from this Category 5 storm totaled close to $45 billion. And that's in 1992 costs. Imagine what the total cost would be in today's prices. 61 people were reported killed by the storm. Are you personally ready for a natural disaster? Is the company you work for ready? And are you prepared to create a natural disaster crisis plan for a company? All companies should plan for some type of natural disaster depending on where the company is housed. And in planning, a company's crisis team needs to ask some very difficult questions way before a disaster strikes. These questions can include: what would your company do in the event it was closed for several days, damaged, or even totally destroyed? What if there were prolonged power outages and local phone services, such as landlines and cell phones, were disabled? What if key suppliers were shut down even though your company wasn't? What if payroll, tax, accounting, and production records were destroyed? And what does our insurance actually cover? By asking some of these key questions, many companies have made preparedness plans by developing 1. Contingency plans to remain in operation if the office can't be used. Some businesses, such as State Farm Insurance and other insurance companies, bring in trailers to serve as offices in the event their workplaces have been destroyed. Other companies purchase backup generators to maintain lighting, refrigeration, computers. Several Publix grocery stores in key areas of the state have purchased high-power generators to prevent food spoilage and loss of revenue from discarded produce. Other companies store through off-site storage services or cloud services, updated copies of critical company documents, key phone numbers, computer and internet passcodes, employee contacts, and other informations. Many medical companies are using off-site secure storage for records and cloud storage for important information. A company's whole computer system could be wiped out in a disaster. Backup of key information is vital for the company to survive. And all companies need to update or at least review their insurance coverage at least once a year. Many plans won't cover flooding, for example. Without an additional policy, companies will go out of business without the proper insurance to protect them. Natural disasters will happen whether we want them to or not. And even though this is the one crisis we cannot prevent, we can certainly plan in advance and be ready once it occurs.